Okay, we may have right.
King James.
Okay, we may have Proverbs read in different verses because they don't read the same.
Thank you for your card. She was impressed with the workmanship.
Oh, good, thank you. Oh, you chose it, sorry. Can't blame me. It probably isn't, but it looks like.
Hello. You doing good?
You know what we're supposed to do for some.
Well, you know.
I'll come up with something. I'll make it up. I'm gonna say do less than 7.
Okay. Sounds right.
Yeah.
I think they're gonna try to be back. I have no idea who's teaching.
Terrified. It was right on her.
It's not me, as far as I know.
Not yet.
Like, I thought something hit her, and it may have. It was like, the whole house lit up.
Boy.
So close. Then it got, it's dark. It's not supposed to be this dark. You're right, it's not. But we looked at the map, I was like, look, it's just a little storm. It was a big little storm.
It was a noise. That answers the question, yes, we got them.
A lot.
That's all. You know, I go for sprinkles, just a little bit of sprinkles.
You've still got a couple minutes. Yeah.
Hi, Marcy.
Hello, how are you, John?
Is today your birthday?
Today's my birthday.
Well, happy birthday. I won't. It's just one of the anniversaries of her 39th birthday.
Happy birthday.
Right.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Oh, really?
I don't know, I'm only for you, lady.
Yeah.
Hello, long Neil.
We sang.
Marcy.
Good, he should have.
Hi.
Celeste.
Hi.
Cecily?
Hi.
We've got about 30 seconds before we get started. And so I'm all for us going ahead and getting this thing off and rolling. Neil, how about leading us in prayer as we begin?
Dear Heavenly Father, so grateful for this opportunity we have to together with God's presence and God's study your word. Lord, show blessings as we do that. Bless whatever as we gather our thoughts and how we make it work. And then we can do to be pleasing to you. In Jesus' name.
Amen. Ask one of our granddaughters, one's 10 years old, what's a friend? And the response is somebody that you can always depend on and always looks out for your best interest. Okay, that's pretty good. But all of us have friends in all different areas and relationships in life. B-Lou, what's a friend? Somebody you can. Okay, right, okay. Friends, we talk about come in a whole lot of variety. Sometimes it's just someone who's an acquaintance. Sometimes a friend is someone that you have activities with. Generally, when we're talking about friends, we're talking about a deeper relationship. We're talking about the friend that sticks closer than a brother, someone that in good times or in bad times you can depend upon. Some of our previous teachers have talked about being a friend of Jesus. On a number of occasions, Abraham was called a friend of God. And being a friend of God, he's one who has a close relationship with God. There's warmth, there's affection involved, and it was seen in Abraham and his obedience to God. Different in our relationship with friends. We're not obedient to each other, but we seek the best interest of each other. So it's a different deal. At any age in life, almost any sane person wants to have friends. One of the most difficult, challenging things in life is when someone ends up, due to death or for varying other reasons, and they're all alone and in need. Probably, how you doing, brother? Probably the most successful commercial that kind of sends chills through you if you have lived any part of it is the one, I've fallen and I can't get up. It's an effective commercial because that is a fear. A dear friend used to be a member of this congregation, Jan Horn. After her husband died, she lived alone for many years. She was in her bathtub and fell and could not get up hour after hour after hour after hour after hour. And finally, someone broke into her house. But there again, if she had not had someone who called her pretty much every day, she would have been there permanently. She could not literally get up. So friends are important. One of the things in our lives, we need people. We need people all the time. We don't necessarily know that we need anybody when we're young, when we're healthy, when the wind is at our back. But all of us need friends. God intends for us as children, His children, to be friends, to be friendly to all of our brothers and sisters in Christ, and also to go beyond. What are some of the things Jesus said that would apply to friendships? Then we're going to jump right into the Proverbs in lesson 6. What are some things that you think of that might, Jesus, how do you be a friend?
I had it on Sunday, but if you keep my commandments, I'm trying to remember the passage.
We do that. John 15:14 and 14:15 are reverse verses. They're almost the exact same thing. Jesus says, "You're my friends if you do whatsoever I command you," and then you have the reverse that's almost identical. But just kind of a neat thing. But almost all of the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5, 6, 7, really starts Matthew 4:23. Goes through the basic principles. A friend goes the extra mile. A friend isn't easily offended, they turn the other cheek. It's amazing that we sometimes get so caught up in the literal. It doesn't mean literally, because after they hit you on both cheeks, then you just bust them. That's not the point. The point is, we're to be people that strive to get along, that go above and beyond what is expected. And if you do that with your enemies, of course, you do that with your friends. Got a couple things we want to get right to it tonight, and there will probably be a couple of hard things that we say tonight. Take it personally, because there might be something said that might help you or might help somebody else have a little easier life. A friend loveth at all times, and Proverbs 17:17. So instead of worrying about being or having friends, I want to talk with grandchildren about be a friend first. Be that friend who loves at all times. Be that one who's there when there's somebody sitting all by themselves at a table. Everybody else is, and children do that. Sometimes adults do that. When we come to church, we can come to church selfishly. We come to church selfishly. We speak to those who we're close to. We ignore everybody else. We come to church with an attitude of worship. What we strive to do is, sure, we have people that we know a long time, but there's someone who's out of place. Someone who's new, that's the first person you speak to. Person you don't know. You meet some really cool people that way. And you also make a warm church. On the other side of that, have you ever heard people say that it was a cold church? Well, don't ever say that anymore. If God lets you be there, you warm it up. I was at a church, one of the people we're supporting down in Panama City Beach, Florida. And we were down there, 6-8 weeks ago. And little small church. If it was on a holiday weekend, they probably had 5 or 6 of their members there. And so went in and saw that's kind of how it's going to be and spoke to everybody there. So, that just, you just start, it doesn't take very long, and about half the people or more were visitors. And it's interesting. So warm a place up. If you go to a place, you move to an area, they're not friendly, invite the folks over. That doesn't mean everyone's always going to reciprocate, they're going to make a place for you. But it's really hard to have a cold church if you've got somebody that's burning hot, friendly there. So change it. Have you ever heard that church has cliques? Nobody's had me over. Give you a solution to that. You be the one who invites everybody over. And I know there's at least one of you here that's done that someplace where you lived and they still didn't come. But still, distance and various things. But the interesting thing is you can change that, and you can begin with you. And the other thing is, if there are cliques in the church, there's obviously people that aren't in the cliques. Invite all of them over, or go out to eat with them. If you don't want to be at your house, go out someplace. You can go out and get coffee. As long as you don't go to Starbucks, it probably won't cost you $5. I somehow came up with 2 sausage biscuits a day home at a senior coffee. It was $10 today, but it's a different world that we live in. High-class children. That wasn't this. I would have got the bargain, buy one, get one for $1, the sausage biscuit, forget the aid. But funny story. Anyway, but those are things that we can practically use and do. The responsibility for this being a warm congregation, for it being a warm school, for you being a good neighbor, is be that person yourself, and it usually catches on. And it's hard to be, as you said, if you're outgoing. So don't be the one that complains. And as a preacher, I used to have to kind of listen to that. I'm retired. Over and over again through the years, people complain. Invite somebody over. Invite somebody out for a coffee. Do something yourself. And then if you do all that and nobody will ever respond or have anything to do with you, then you gotta, that's a different issue. But take a little initiative. And most of the time things will work out. That's the same true with children. As long as it's not the same 2 or 3 people that seem to be extremely popular that you just have to sit with or be with, there are plenty of people that need it. Friend that sticks closer than a brother. How many of you all live around a lot of your family? How many of you live around a lot of your family? Okay, you've got some built-in support friendships. A lot of people don't. And they can really use a friend is very, very valuable. Those who have small children, if they can have someone they can trust to just help out the children occasionally, be an incredible benefit. Sometimes even in services, you'll have people that are there, 2 or 3 kids, and you can either complain that their children are acting up or be that person who helps out. Generally, children that come to services that are not used to attending don't have a clue how to behave. They've never sat down anywhere, and they're going to be rowdy for a while until they get the hang of it. Also, ointment and perfume delight the heart, and the sweetness of a man's friend gives delight in a hearty counsel. Association with friendships can make you feel warm. Also, they support you in time of trouble. For page number 23 says 2 are better than 1 because they have a good reward for their labor. For if they fall, one will lift up his companion. But woe to him who is alone when he falls, for he has no one to help him up. Again, if 2 lie down together, they will keep warm. But how can one be warm alone? The one may be overpowered by another. 2 can withstand him, and a three-fold cord is not quickly broken. Think about ropes. What gives ropes their strength? they're wound. You have multiple. When is a rope about ready to break? When you get down, there's just one string left. Then it's getting ready, and you've probably seen that on trucks or various things when a load is getting ready. So there's benefit in more than one. Also, iron sharpens iron, so a man sharpens the countenance of his friends. Proverbs 27:17. And so it's good to have friends that challenge you mentally, not insultingly, but people who challenge you. A friend should bring out the best in you. And that's especially true as Christians. We not only need to look to bring out the best in others, but let others bring out the best in us. So that's also, Marshall, that young lady with your son, I believe. That's something to look for in someone you're dating. Is someone that brings out the best, makes you a better person. Those of you that have been married for a number of years, a lot of times if you were asked who's your best friend, a lot of times your best friend is your spouse. You have to seek the best interest of each other. You do things together. And John, all of us the guys that are married, our wives try to bring out the best in us. And
They work hard at it.
Yeah, they work hard at it.
Active word is try.
Yeah, I sort of put the emphasis on the try part of it. But that's part of what we do. It says the kisses of an enemy are deceitful. So, when someone's trying to sell you something that you really don't want or don't need, someone calls me young man. Young man. Man, they're not sincere. They're trying to sell me something. That's not how you address someone my age typically. There was a day, but that wasn't today. Also, friends will show pity to you. Job's friends, were Job's friends good friends, bad friends, average friends? How would you summarize the three major characters, not the fourth friend that kind of comes into a major part of the book? And make an argument either way. Job and his friends.
They did come and to see how he was and to visit with him and stayed silent for a long time. It probably would have been better if they continued to stay silent. But once they opened up, they began to try to solve his problem, where his problem was, and they were misguided in that, so that their advice was wrong.
As I said, I think they did really good in the fact that they came in, days, they sat there and listened. But the tendency is to try to solve a problem, want somebody to get over it. If there's someone in here, and I'm sensitive to other people and their challenges where you are. If you just lost a loved one, and someone says, well, it's time you got over it. If that's someone near and dear to you, you may not be ready to be over it. And the fact that someone else has moved on, it's just different. So we need to be understanding. We need to realize there's some experiences we have not had, and even if we have had them, it does not mean that our friend is going to deal with it in the same way. My grandmother, I was 12 years old when my grandfather died in 1970. And I still remember, she was a larger lady in those days as far as just wasn't very tall, but she was just stocky and strong, shaking all over. And and she was there at the casket, and that's still vivid enough. But she grieved and she moved on with her life. But she understood, didn't understand it. I've seen people at funerals who didn't feel anything. And some of you may not have felt anything. That does not mean at all that that's going to be long term. Sometimes those are the people it takes the longest. So whatever someone's feeling in a time of grief or in a time of illness like Job's having, his friends couldn't be where he is. They hadn't been there. And there are a lot of circumstances that someone can be in that is totally different You know, someone says, I know exactly how you feel. Probably not. You might have had something similar, but I've had kidney stones that were so bad, and Eric's had it worse than I had. He made me pretty much ill once when he told me about his kidney stones. Don't ask him. But I had one so bad that I was afraid I wasn't going to die. And it was my life, the lowest point of faith I ever remember. I was on the floor wondering why God would let a body hurt that bad. And I'm kidding. So, you know, as you know, there are other people that they work a week and they've got a kidney stone. Different thing.
Well, I had shared some of that with you, your experiences. I had them too. And I called you Rocky one time. You didn't like
It wasn't even funny. I can laugh now. Yeah, it wasn't funny. You know, but as I said, Eric told me the story, and that was pretty bad. But
He almost threw up in line.
yeah, really, I pretty much lost the right now. But you know, there are experiences. We're in a huge amount of information going on all over the country about abortion. Never had anybody came up to me and say, you know, I want to sin. I've had a number of guys, and a number in this congregation a long time ago, who were feeling guilty years later for having paid for one and supported someone in having one, and that's a long time ago. And but the point is, they were feeling guilt years later. It's hard to realize. We've probably got a society full of people. You say, well, how do you know that people have guilt? How many of you, and I don't want to know anybody's personal business, how many have known someone who had a miscarriage and lost a baby and grieved over that? And if are we on camera? Mm-hmm. Okay, we won't talk. Recently, I was, you know, had a good friend that passed, and it's one of the things that, you know, they were, you know, they had one of the griefs in life, and something they wanted to include is the fact that had a child that never lived in this world. So there are things that we go through as friends. John's got the right idea. Sometimes we just listen. Sometimes we don't offer the solution. Very few people really want us to solve their problems for us. Most of the time, friendship is about listening and being able to help, willing to help, if called upon to do so. What do you say when someone at a funeral, you just say you're sorry, or you care, or that you love the individual, your friend that's lost someone?
Your presence means a lot to someone. Just being there, you don't have to say all of that.
Yeah.
But they may know what you're saying.
And so I think that helps.
Job,
Also,
Job's wife was not his best friend.
yes, yeah. Job had a situation.
Her advice was to just curse God to death.
Yeah. She'd given up, and we're really hard on Job's wife. I've seen a number of people who have seen loved ones go through horrible things, and sometimes it's even worse than it happening to you. Going through the pain and the agony day after day, week after week, year after year.
Well, I was just going to say, Job's wife pretty much did go through everything Job did except the boils.
Yeah.
I mean, she lost all her kids, she lost all her wealth, I mean, just like he did. They just handled it in two different ways.
One of my heroes in the church here are the Landstreets, because they went through the worst case scenario for me to have a child that has a grievous illness, and to get through that and have such a wonderful attitude toward life and toward helping other people. You know, incredible. Yes, you have the good results in that case, but there were years and years of day-to-day challenges, and you can look at the pictures and get a little glimpse. So that's something that even in the worst of circumstances, you can't do anything else. You can be an example of someone who loves God and of someone who handles, the worst that life offers you.
I think another person would be Kevin at Virginia Long and how they handled
Yes.
everything that they went through. That
Incredible, and you have a period of time, and some people can't even talk about it. It's so painful, but as you said, you can know and care. And we all have the ability to pray for them and to be supportive. And sometimes just a word of encouragement. I tell brother here that I've been a good friend for a long time. You win every day you get out of bed. Every day, the loss, his wife, probably not even talking, that's the wrong camera. Just, you got out of bed, you're functioning, you made it to service. It's a win. Because the tendency is, and people, and a lot of times, the tendency is to want to just get in the bed, cover up your head, but it's all still there. It wouldn't be good. Here's probably, and Brent brought up something, Brent asked a question a week or so ago to me, and a friend will rejoice with you. In the Luke 15, all of the things where they found the lost coin or whatever, the pearl of great price, they want their friend to rejoice. It's sometimes easier to sympathize than it is to rejoice with you. And sometimes the new car, the new house, it's really, really hard. Why do some people, even friends, sometimes have a great difficulty with prosperity?
jealousy.
Yeah. And what kind of things might we say if we're kind of feeling the twinge? Well, they didn't need that.
Yeah, that's kind of showy, isn't it? Man, that place is big.
There are a lot of things that indicate that maybe we got a twinge. I ask you a question. And I've seen this over a lot of years, and so as I said, I'm retired, so if anybody takes anything personal, just take it personal. That's okay. Is there anybody in this church, anybody in a church where you've ever been, you felt uncomfortable around because they just had way more money than you did and way nicer stuff? We got some that are shaking their head no, and there probably are. There are people. That is a big, big issue. It's easier to rejoice with people who don't have anything than it is to rejoice to people who, as you view, appear who seems to have more. Now, as a Christian, should that make any difference to us, what someone has? It shouldn't be. We should be happy. That's not the important things in life. Character is way more important than what one has. But would you invite someone that's a these days, millionaire doesn't mean much. Someone who's very wealthy by whatever standard you use, that has things that are way, way nicer than yours, would you feel comfortable having them in your home? A lot of people do.
Yeah.
And let's just be, this is real deal. And real deal. So if anybody thinks that's not an issue, is just not very observant.
We're just your brother and sister in Christ.
Yeah.
You're equal in the sight of God.
Yeah, your equality is not based on economics. Okay, so maybe you're not feeling that. And some people don't feel that at all. Think about other people and be aware there might be someone else who feels that way toward you. So be sensitive. Don't want to be showy. Don't want to be braggadocio. But there might be someone who's just a little intimidated. There might be someone who's not grown up in the church, who has all their life gauged people by what they have, and that doesn't change automatically. And a church is always growing if it's living. You have church that you're adding, you're reaching out. And I don't know how many times I've heard people make reference to a church, different churches. It's not the same one. Oh, that's a bunch of rich people over there. Oh, how would you respond to that? Would you respond to that?
You can say, yes, they're very blessed by God.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And also, if you get to know in any congregation, especially one over 50 people, maybe even 50 people, if you go to a large congregation, you have people in all different areas of the economic spectrum, in pretty much every circumstance and situation you can imagine. And what brings them together is love for God and worshiping Him.
It's funny how a lot of folks do feel that way. I mean, their mind is on materialistic things. My brother is a preacher, and came across, he loves, his hobby is buying trading cars. I mean, every 2 years at least, he's bouncing back and forth on cars. He found a deal on a 10-year-old Cadillac. It was $12,000. He paid cash for the thing. And he bought it. Came to church. Man, the congregation was in a humpy. Why is he driving a Cadillac? That makes up. What are they thinking about us? Our preacher drives a Cadillac. You know what he's like? And they're going to say it. They bought the $30,000 brand new Escape. You know. Yeah. And they think it was just amazing. Just because it's a Cadillac, the preacher shouldn't drive it.
Have you seen that red Mustang preacher here?
Yeah. He talks about road rage. I wonder.
Interesting thing, that costs about as much as my 16-year-old granddaughter drives around. And it's a 10-year-old Honda. but I mean, you know.
Yeah.
And it's kind of laughing. We were eating lunch, and he was telling me a little bit of the story there, and I said, you know, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me if it's one of those new Corvettes they drive off the lot there and right out of the factory in Bowling Green. You know, cars appreciate, most of them do. If you get a classic car, not necessarily, but it's happy for people. I enjoyed it. I've ridden a few really nice cars in my life. Enjoyed it every time. And I didn't have to pay the insurance on any of it. but it, you know, as I said, and that's something we need to work on our own attitude. If we have anything against someone, we feel uncomfortable around someone because of what they have, then that's not a good thing of friendship. That's just something we need to work on, you know. And it's a bigger problem than probably any of us really want to do. There are also some things that, as a friendship, you want to be loyal. Do not forsake your own friend or your father's friend. That's always been one of my favorite proverbs, Proverbs 27:10. My father died when I was 42 years of age, and the people who were faithful friends of him in life and death throughout my life have been faithful to him. And it's just incredible. Friends, family, his brothers, sisters, couldn't ask for better people. And I think that's kind of amazing. And several of you that have been blessed to have Christians who were and your parents, and they're gone now, you'll probably know people that are just good people. They were good all through their life, and they'll be good and faithful and fair to you as well. So the fact of your own friend, don't get rid of your friend easily. And those who've been around a while, people are pretty consistent if you know them for a period of time. Very few people are, most people are who they are, especially if you know. Also, he says use gracious speech, and you can pick anybody to death, or you can help build somebody. Your friend going to be perfect? No. Are you going to be perfect as a friend? No. Keep working, striving to be the better person, and realize it's a work in progress and learn from mistakes. You have the person who would lay down their life for the friend. Greater love has no one than this, than a man to lay down one's life for his friends. John 15:13. And that's the love of Jesus. He gave his life for us, Who would you give your life for? And I know we could all talk to everybody, but who do you think?
Well, most people would say their family members, I'm sure.
Yeah, if there's one, you're in a boat.
Right,
You're both not gonna make it, you and your son.
right.
Who's gonna get the life vest?
Your son, of course.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's natural. I guess you could lodge the reason that he's stronger than you are, better fit. He might make
Better
it.
swimmer.
Better swimmer, but, there's only one. Would you step in front of a car for one of the children? Yeah. You would probably, especially, your grandchildren, it would be, would be automatic. You wouldn't even think about it. But who would you give your child's life? Would you give his life for the drunk on the street?
Well, thank you for putting me on the spot with that one.
Hey, I'm just asking.
But no, man.
This is real build tonight.
Well, but I think it tells you too the difference between us and God.
No, you're not going to give,
Right.
for some convict, out on the street, will you take, you go to jail for it? No.
Right.
I mean, and rightfully so. We should love all people, but start giving away your kid's life. Military career. It's a wonderful thing for the country, but not necessarily for moms and daddies. When you really look at it, you want your son or daughter to be a police officer today? I mean, is it good noble work? Absolutely. Do you want to support? Sure. But most mothers and fathers are going to at least have a hesitancy because of the extreme danger perceived to be involved, and especially in times of war, in times of conflict. And I'm not anti-military, so don't even go there. I'm just saying something to consider. So we value our relationship with God. We value our friends, and there is that rare friend like Jesus who gave it all. Also, there says things that destroy friendship, money, and that becoming surety. How do you avoid losing a friend over money? I've got an idea here, but we've got a lot of wisdom here. So, how do you? Because you can have family members, you can have serious issues over money. How do you avoid that?
Just don't expect to get any money back.
Make it a gift.
Again, that has been my solution through the years, and it sure makes it a lot easier in dealing with people in the church. And if it's a loan, and don't give away your rent money. If you're going to give money, give it something that you can afford not to receive back. Because the odds of you being paid are not very good, because who's going to ask you for money if the bank's glad to give it to them? Somebody over here had a hand up. There's an intelligent thought I know somewhere. And that'll come up periodically. Just don't
forget that they even owe you money, but you won't forget that they owe you money. And then it will be tension between the two of you.
Yeah, you don't want.
Guys, you ask for your money back.
I know.
Yeah, when you go ask your money back, you got a problem. As I said, that's true with brothers and sisters, parents and children. It's usually not that kind of situation. I'm kind of one just need a little from the kids. Don't expect it back.
Parents know they're not going to get it back.
And we'll just move on.
I mean, when you go out to dinner, who's going to pay?
Rob.
Not necessarily a kid. It's always mom or dad.
Yeah.
But it's okay.
That's whoever can.
That's what we're there for.
Yeah, whoever carries the massacre. But that makes it relationships in the church so much easier. And I pointed that out and I'm not an elder, I'm not a deacon. I'm a former, I has been, in the church. I've had people on many occasions through the years come up and say, I just got some money, rent payment, various things, and I'd like to borrow some money. And what I've tried to consistently tell people through the year, the church is not in the loaning business. It's not a bank. And when the men, the elders, whoever makes these decisions, when they come together, they're not. If you want to pay that back at some point in time, it's not going to be a loan. It's not going to be, you just give someone else. That seemed to satisfy people through the years. You can put it in place. I don't ever want to know about it one way or the other. The elders don't want to know about it. If you feel conscience bound and you're able, sure, you can give to God for someone else or help someone else, and that seemed to work. Don't know of a single church I've ever been involved with. Maybe you know the exception that went broke helping somebody. Y'all know anybody? Y'all ever know a church lost its building because they helped too many people? Remember that? I just wondered if there was someone that knew a church. Benevolence is a very small part of most church budgets, and somebody's ready to lose their house. You don't want them moving in with you. Pretty soon. Do that in a family too. Sometimes that rent payment's a lot cheaper than the result. Disloyalty in the case with Absalom. He turned against his own father. And probably one of the most difficult things for David was that he ended up having some of his own friends, they've been lifelong friends, who saw things looking better under Absalom, and they thought that was the future they wanted. Jesus, did he have any friends turn against him? In Psalm 41, verse 9, you have Judas in the most deliberative way, and you have Peter, who wasn't much of a friend. And Peter was an incredible person. He was under incredible pressure. And something that we learned from Peter, even really good people under really incredible pressure will sometimes fold. It doesn't mean they're always going to fold. Doesn't mean that they're not a person trying to do right. Very, very few people under enough pressure are not going to make a mistake. Mentioned Barnabas on Wednesday evening 2 or 3 weeks ago. Barnabas, to fit in with his Jewish brethren, even got carried away with getting away from those Gentiles who were Christians. And Peter was addressed face to face with it, and Barnabas also. And don't you imagine he felt really ashamed that he had done that which he knew better than to do. And so don't get caught up in what do you do if you make a mistake, if you haven't been a very good friend, or if you failed a friend. And the best way any relationship in life to resolve when we've done wrong, and even with your children, one of the pieces of advice I give any parent, don't let your children, a generation ago, parents were never to show weakness. It's not weakness to just own it. I did wrong. I said the wrong thing. I shouldn't have done that. I lost my temper. Children know you're human, and children are incredible about forgiving. Well, that's kind of in their DNA. But don't be that person who says, well, I never, did wrong. And we've had a lot of known people that basically operated on, I'm never going to apologize. That's just wrong. It's wrong politically, but it's wrong personally. Because we're going to make some mistakes. Probably the most famous friendship in the Bible is Jonathan and David, two close friends. We got 4 minutes left. Tell me, why were Jonathan and David good friends? Jonathan's the son of Saul. I don't know if everybody's background here, most of you would know. David was the rising star who was going to end up being the king of Israel. He was anointed to be king long before he actually took the reins by Samuel, chosen by God. why did the heir apparent Jonathan and David, why were they friends?
Obviously, they loved each other.
Why did they do that? What would have brought them together? And I think that'll help you understand your own friendships.
Completely different views, but had a similar understanding.
And absolutely, they both are incredibly valiant men. Jonathan was a hero. Jonathan was someone who risked his life, a military hero, took on a garrison of the Philistines with him and his armor bearer. I think they had common the bravery. I think Jonathan also was not the guy who wanted to be the leader necessarily. He wanted to be, and he admired what David had done with Goliath and his military. He did not have that desire. Also, they both had a common challenge. How do you deal? Jonathan with his father, David. His father tried to kill him on occasion. As well as trying to kill David and still show respect. How do you respect someone who does not always act with respect? So they were close together. They risked their life for each other. They risked their position. And Jonathan ends up dying a valiant death. And I think one of the most gracious statements, and probably something all of us ought to keep in mind, how did David approach when his enemy dies? He dies in battle. He dies with Jonathan, Saul. He's now the king.
He honored him and was very respectful to Saul as king. Several times he referred to him as the Lord's anointed and would not take an action against him even when he could.
He could have taken him out himself. He chose not to.
And Jonathan's example is interesting too, because Saul tried to tell him that as long as David lives, you'll never be king.
And he was right.
And he was right. And if Jonathan had lived, I can imagine that Jonathan would have been just as rejoicing over David's coronation as David was, just because he would have been that type of friend that would have rejoiced over his good fortune.
Absolutely.
Over his elevation.
And friends can be at different areas and relationships in life. Elijah and Elisha would be considered friends. Probably we'd use the word mentor today. But what a comfort it would have been to Elijah in those last years. Here he's got Elijah there with him. Elijah's helping. Elijah's going to take up the life's work that he had done. So you can have friends of different ages, and I would recommend to have friends. Usually you're going to get good advice from people that have lived a while in life, if they're not bitter. Now some people get bitter. A lot of people aren't, and people that have lived in life can be a real friend to you. So those are some of the thoughts tonight. Our time's up on friendship, but a little different perspective, and hopefully, but be a friend, and make sure that some of the cautions that we've thrown in here, that you don't let the little green monster get you. Appreciate people and be comfortable with people, whatever their background. In the Lord's church, we're supposed to all be united based on love for Christ. That's the big thing, and all the other stuff is very, very minor. Should come in play. Thank you. Next lesson Sunday. Number 7.
Forget about it. I know, I have to visit. I'm like,
I'm going to toss it over the top. You're strong runner.
He called me. He wanted to apologize. He said he was so out of it Sunday. Nobody's ever. He's on medicine. He's on pain.
I know.
That's like 2 weeks before it's really kind of like taking me to physical therapy. I think kind of on your own. They had some appointments lined up, but I called them.
I can take care of that.
Joe's got, I mean, there was lemonade and that.
Clear the way. Come up with that word yet, Billy?
Chocolate.
Oh, love that.